There we go. I'm Matt Hudgins. He's Dave Mulvaney, and this is ProfitabilityMD. Dave, how you doing today, buddy?
Matt, I am doing good. How are you?
Man, I got all kinds of new digs here. Check it out. So I'm in a new place in my office. I've got some new lighting so you can see my face. I got a new headset so you can hear me better. And actually, I got a new stand-up desk. So I've got all kinds of new stuff going on over here.
The stand-up desk, is that that's the new thing for like burning calories, right?
I was thinking more for my bad back.
Oh, well, it's good for your back too, Matt.
Yeah. And so you can stand up, and then you got a little button over here you press, and then it'll go down to a sit-down height. I've got a little, chair behind me that I.
You broke up for a moment there.
Oh, how about that? Am I back?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So this is interesting, and it's funny because I read your blog this morning on davidmulvaney.com, and it actually coincides exactly with the conversation that I had with an acquaintance, an old acquaintance that we ran into each other yesterday. We had lunch today. And it was talking about, we talked about the 5 ways to grow your business. We got to have more leads, so we get more at bats. We got to have more conversions, so we can convert those people into clients. More transactions. Number 4 is higher pricing or bundling of prices, and number 5 is higher profits. We were talking about with him. He's a financial advisor. He's a good financial, does a great job. What do you think he needs? He needs more sales. He needs more leads, more conversions, which I think is exactly what your blog was about this morning.
Yeah, I talk a lot about leads because a lot of my customers aren't, not just my customers, Matt. A lot of people, that's their biggest area where they're lacking. Like you and I, it's like, okay, how can I get more conversions out of the ones that I already got? How can I use upsells? How can I use, all the different things? How can I get more out of the well that I'm already getting water? But when a lot of people come to us fresh, it's all about how do I get more leads? And the reality is, I don't care if you're buying them. I don't care what it is, but if you're not positioning yourself as an expert, you're never going to have leads come to you. That's the key to, that's what separates the people who sell at the lowest price and those that just end up in this endless supply of pick and choose which customer you want to serve.
Right. It's funny you say that. So I would say we talked about this kind of there's the before unit, which I now call attract. How do we attract the clients? There's the delivery of the service, and most of our people are really good at doing what they do. They're really good electrician. They're really good advisor. They're really good contractor. And then the third would be kind of the follow-up, which most people are terrible at follow-up, and most people are terrible at the attract part, right? And so it's funny you say that because most of them are really good technical, really good at doing what they do, the delivery of the service. Where they lack is building their authority. And so we had a conversation that talked about 3 ways to build your authority is better service to your existing clients, better communication with what I call centers of influence. Those are people that can send you clients. And then we talked about building a marketing funnel, a lead funnel that can be from people that were whether introduced to you from your past clients or from the center of influence or people you have just attracted because what you called the building of the authority, right?
Yes. Well, ultimately, when it comes to what I call expert status, when you achieve expert status in the eyes of your prospect, you don't have to be the only expert in the industry, but if you're the only one they know about, they don't have any other place to turn. If you water their lawn, and I don't know what just as an analogy, if whatever it is you do, if you're the only expert they know about in that sector of the marketplace, where are they going to turn when they need someone in that sector of the marketplace? Whether that's, I'll give you an example. So I'll buy a car and then I keep it for typically 7 to 10 years. I'm not one to, but I buy nice cars. So like for the first my last 3 cars, not trucks, but my last 3 cars were Lexus. And so I'd buy a new Lexus, I'd drive it, I take it to the dealer. Now then after the warranty's out, I take it to the same mechanic, not at the dealer. I go to a different mechanic now.
Right, right.
But I never ask him price. He's my guy.
He's your guy. That's right.
That's the point is, you get somebody you trust. Sure, you buy a new car, you're naturally going to go to the dealer because of, the warranty type things. But once it went out of warranty, I always go back to my guy. As soon as I have a GMC truck, as soon as that went out of warranty, boom, he was doing all the oil changes, all the tire rotations, everything. And so does it cost more? No, I really don't think it does because I trust him. I never have to go. And he's like, do I need to call you with a quote? I'm like, no, I don't need a quote. Just fix my air conditioning.
Just fix the car. That's right.
Fix it. Because you get to where you trust somebody. And that's the point, is that when you don't just want customers, you want customers that fit your profile of the ideal customer. And that profile, I believe, has to be, maybe not for everyone, but for me, I don't want a guy who wants to badger me on price. I just had a conversation with one of my distributors in Atlanta.
Right.
And he was calling, asking for some pricing in my LED business.
Right.
And in our LED company. And I told him, I said, and I quoted him the price. I said, that's the price. And if you call me again to even discuss lowering that price, call somebody else. I don't care. And he knows it because this is now the second time he's called me for price. I'm like, we have published pricing. I just quoted you the published pricing.
Right.
And that's going to be the price. And if you don't want, you probably need to move on, only because under that price, it affects my ability to be able to properly serve my customers. Same for and I think so many business owners miss that. They want the business today so bad that they forget their business is going to be around for a long time.
No, and that's a great point. I think that's one of the advantages of having your own business, and especially a thriving business. You get what I call one of the 4 freedoms. We used to talk about freedom of time, money, relationship, and purpose. So relationship is, I don't have to deal with any clients I don't have to deal with. I don't have to deal with any clients, any customers, any employees that I don't want to deal with, right? That if you have a thriving business, that you've got your ideal client, you've got your stuff figured out, so you're bringing in new clients, you got your leads coming in, conversions, you've got your delivery of the service, and you got your follow-up all figured out, then you get to pick and choose. That's exactly right. You get to pick and choose who you want to do business with, and that's the ability of having your own business, because there's no big brother to tell you who you have to service. The pain in the butt people. You don't have to do that anymore.
And it is one of the things I talked about on the blog when I talked about an ebook that I wrote, and it was getting downloaded on average about 400 times a month in my target market, and that went on for about 6 years. And that was, now our average distributor at that time would do well between $100,000 and $250,000 a year of business with us, and so with some doing into the millions. Well, the problem is I could only service so many customers, and it was really easy to start being choosy. And I talked about how I had to get choosy. I had to literally put barriers in place and call them barriers. Before you could ever talk to me, because we had a questionnaire, and you had to fill out this questionnaire. It was about a 4-page questionnaire. Then once you filled that out, then you had to fill out another questionnaire that told us your financial wherewithal. Before you could even become a distributor to resell our products at that time, you had to jump through all these hoops. Why? Because by the time they were done filling all that out, they were ready to buy. They were ready.
They're self-qualified, self-selection.
Yeah. So, but that was a good thing, because a lot of people would go away that wouldn't have been good customers anyway. And that's what you want to do with or anybody wants to do with their clients. So.
Right. Let's go back. I was going to circle back to one of the things you mentioned about, building the authority. Let's talk about 3 ways that somebody could build authority. Tell us 3 ways somebody could build authority.
Well, what actually builds authority is the biggest way to build authority or to position yourself as the expert is, number one, you have to explain from their standpoint how your product or service will solve their problem or make their life better. And typically that's done in such a way that you are just first describing their problem that they're having, and then you move into a story about how you ended up with the solution to that problem, and then you typically bring in some testimony, if you will. Sometimes that's referrals or what have you, but testimonials, other proof that says, hey, other people have done this, and, using this method. And when you've done that correctly, and then you show them the transformation that they can have, now they've moved through really a process that now mentally they're saying, this person is actually speaking exactly to me, so they must be an expert because they've gone through this very same thing. So that's done in really good copywriting. I don't think there's enough. Let's put it this way: really good copywriting sells everything.
Right.
I mean, Apple is not the company they are today by being okay copywriters. They hire some of the best copywriters with a W, in the business. They write. What copywriting is selling in print. And the amount of money that people pay to hire a good copywriter, I mean, I've heard it said that, Tony Robbins pays into the millions of dollars a year for his copywriter.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
There you go, right there. Somebody who's that successful still paying a bunch of money for good copywriters.
Well, why should Tony write? Now, Tony writes a lot of his own stuff. And so in order to this is what's really important about copywriting, especially if you want to outsource it, you need to have a copywriter that's good enough at copywriting in your profile. That's got to be really hard, Matt. Imagine somebody taking Matt Hudgins. They know you well enough that when they write and you read it, you're like, it's as if you wrote it.
Right. I'll back up because I love what you're saying about copywriting. And I'll say that's kind of identifying your target market and knowing and understand your target market. And when you know and understand them, you'll know and understand their key problems, and you'll be able to speak their language, which leads right into the copywriting, right? But I can even say we start by finding out what your target market is and who those ideal customers are and what their actual problems are, so then you can speak to their language when you write your copywriting.
Perfectly said. And in every single course, and I teach multiple courses, whether I'm teaching it live or I have an online course, every single course I have an entire module on target market. Because if you don't know who your target market is, there's a really good chance that you won't hit any of them. I mean, the shotgun approach does not work, not in business. It's been said the riches is in the niches. If that's how you pronounce niche, some people call it niche, but then the phrase doesn't sound as good because it doesn't rhyme, but it's the truth. Now, a niche can still be a broad category, but when you're right, when you know your customer and you're writing to them in the first person, I, you,
right.
And they read it, yes, that probably is one of the biggest ways to build rapport. And it's also a big weeding, a sifter, if you will, because if they're not right, they're going to go, this guy's a jerk. And a lot of people, I'm sure, say, this guy's a jerk when they read what I write. And that's okay, because then they go away.
That's totally okay. That's right. You don't have to have everybody.
Yeah. So
exactly
that's
right.
part of what your good marketing is supposed to repel the people that you would not want to do business with anyway.
It's a good filter. So I was thinking about that as you're talking about, 3 ways to build authority. Here's ways that people don't think of very often. And it's literally, and you think about it, it works in the sense of interesting articles. You didn't write the article or the content, but you bring it up to somebody, right? So you could talk about, I'm trying to think of an example. You don't have to actually write the article, but you could be the one that says, hey, I read this article, reminded me of you, boom, right? So you don't have to write the article. You can provide checklists, right? So a checklist could be a checklist you made or a checklist you made based on somebody else's article. But then it's just like being the moderator. You know, when you go to like those, go to a convention, right? The moderator has as much authority as the guest speakers, right? So you being the host or aggregating the information, whether it be an article or a checklist or a guest speaker, gain credibility, gain authority just by being the moderator. So I don't want anybody to think they have to write all these articles or checklists themselves. Just by being the moderator and the guy that aggregates the information, you can gain authority. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, and I want to commend you because you do that very well. In fact, 90% of your posts that I see, you're using third-party authority. There's no better way, to create, some level of trust is hey, I found this article, made me think of you, and you forward that to them. That's a great way to create trust, especially if you don't want to create your own. That's, I think, your own content. A lot of people they don't think they're qualified to create content, and everybody has content. It's just a lot of people are not writers. Sometimes it's easier to talk on a video or audio. Those are ways of creating content. But I believe that everybody is an expert in some area.
Oh, absolutely. All these technicians we talked about are really good at what they do. And they probably know so many things inside their own head. You're exactly right. If they could just talk or have somebody interview them and pull it out, right? What are the 3 biggest things that I should worry about for my HVAC? What are the 3 things I need to know if I'm an owner of a building, Mr. Electrician, right? These guys know this stuff like the back of their hands because they're really good technicians. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And Matt, there's an old expression, if somebody likes you, they'll listen to you. If they listen to you, they will believe you. If they believe you, they'll trust you. And if they trust you, they might buy from you. But they've got to start with liking you. And whatever content you're creating, that's where the liking begins. And whether it's your content or somebody else's, by you providing something and saying, hey, I was thinking of you, look at this. And you can sometimes just post on social media to a larger group of people, but they're like, man, I like the stuff Matt puts out.
Right, right. They just build authority by aggregating other people's information and, like you said, talking about what you know.
Yeah, yeah. And it's what we do here. We're creating content for people that are trying to improve their business, trying to make their lives better. And there's an audience for this, and there's a lot of clutter. And the difference between us and maybe a lot of these gurus, there's a lot of gurus who haven't even been in business 2 years.
That's a good point. Right.
They've never grossed $1 million in sales. They've never grossed 5 million in sales. They've never, and not everybody, I say never grossed, well, in some businesses, if you were grossing $1 million in sales, that would be like $1 million in revenue. $1 million in profit. Now it might be gross profit, but some businesses are all profit. They can be solopreneurs. And so, but a lot of these people really have never had a brick and mortar. They've never had, and that's okay. A lot of people don't need a brick and mortar, but a lot of the people we deal with do. They've got a brick and mortar business, and we try to help them get those businesses more profitable as quick as possible.
Right, exactly right. So this, if we're talking about messaging, is what I have another note here that just talks about messaging, right? So when you know your target market, know and understand their message, you'll end up speaking their language, which is the good copywriting you're talking about, which I wrote down here. Your messaging, you got to be able to. A lot of times, it's just saying the right thing the right way, because it resonates with somebody, right? And I've used this analogy before. It's like I'm a golf nut, right? So it might be that a certain golf coach resonates with me better than another golf coach, right? That's messaging. It might be the exact same tip that I saw back in August, but I didn't need it then. So now I need it. So the messaging is the right timing, right? So the messaging is you're speaking my language at the right time. Probably a combo of the two. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah,
and a lot of times they hear your message, but if the timing's wrong, it doesn't matter what your message is. It's The timing's wrong.
Right. But that leads to the fact that I was talking about, like, that's the importance of follow-up and drip campaigns and newsletters and staying in touch, because just because somebody's not interested today doesn't mean they're not interested 6 months from now. Doesn't mean they're not interested 1 month from now. Right.
Yes. And Matt, it's funny. I know of a very prominent figure. I'm talking on the business coaching side of things. And he makes probably net income in the $1 million a year range net.
Okay.
So he's a 7-figure a year guy.
Right.
His drip campaigns are awful. So
Really?
I can honestly say I have bought his products on multiple times, and after about a week to 2 weeks, you never get another email from him. So even people, even some of the best, they do the lead generation so well,
Right.
but if you don't go back to the same well, you're leaving so much money on the table. And I know that's not where we were going with this call, but man, this guy could probably triple his income if he would just take the time to write out, 52 emails and set those up and do that once a year, because after about 3 years, then he'd have 3 years worth of emails that talk to his prospects over and over and over again until they buy, fly, or die. That's the phrase when it comes to email.
Yeah, this is literally the conversation we had at lunch today with this financial advisor guy, which I was talking about that. I was saying, look, with your existing clients, you can script out, we were doing every 2 weeks is what he's talking about. So you could script out 26 emails and have them set up today to go out for the next year. And then he gets referrals from CPAs and lawyers. We call those centers of influence. Said the exact same thing. You could script out 26 emails to go out to those guys today and automate it, right? And we got into that, which was, then it goes back into, and that's the follow-up, that's the scaling part of it, just like you were just talking about, your guru guy. And then it goes back to, he's like, well, what am I going to say to those centers of influence, to those existing clients? And it goes back to what I was just telling you about. It can be content that you already created. It could be somebody else's content, right? He works for a bigger firm that has all kinds of content. I said, we can go back and see what they've published over the last 3 years and use those articles. His firm is pretty big. They publish in a national magazine once a month. I'm like, well, there's 36 monthly articles that your company has written. So you could just regurgitate those 36 articles, just pick, half of them, right? And send out an email every 2 weeks saying, hey, we did this article a couple months ago, a couple years ago, thought of you. There's your drip. Set it up, 26 every 2 weeks automatically.
It's funny because I had the same conversation with one of my clients. Same thing. What do I possibly write about? And I said, no, he was in the electrical business. And I said, how many problems can you name that are associated with electricity, electrical, how many problems can you come up with? And he said, I don't know. And he said, top of my head, I could probably come up with 20, 25. I'm like, well, start
25 emails.
Start with the problem and lay out almost like an attorney, lay out a scenario. Here's the problem. Here's why it matters to you. Here's what you can do about it. And here's how your life will be better if you do something about it. And here's what could really bad happen if you don't do something about it. And then then you got to give a call to action, call me, call our people, whatever, but the whole concept there is, I like to say, start with your client's problems. And so what do you want to come up with in terms of content? Well, write a list of as many problems as you can think of in your business, or as many ways that your business, like, Matt, you take wealthy individuals and you help make sure that they're going to have money later in life. Okay. Right. So technically, indirectly and directly, you are helping people make their life better. Well, so what are the problems? Well, if you invest with Morgan Stanley and the market crashes and they turn out to be a bunch of crooks and they lose all your money, then you realize, oh, well, I guess they couldn't tell They knew the market was getting, but if they all pulled out of one side of their company, then that side of the company would crash and make the company look bad. So we all had to stay in it all. And so,
no. See, I would say that's a great example. In my business, I tell you've hired me to do 6 different things. You don't hire me to do investments. You hire me to do 6 things. The investments is what you're talking about. I'm investing in stocks and bonds. But you're also hiring me for financial planning. How are we going to get you to reach from where you are today to where you want to be? You also hire me for insurance planning. How much insurance do you need? Do you have too much? Do you have too little? Are your gaps covered? Right? You hire me for tax planning. Everybody should pay their fair share, but not a penny more. And what do we say? Insurance? Oh, estate planning, legacy planning. What do you want to have happen when you pass on? You're going to leave this estate to your family, to your kids. You're going to leave the business. Who are you going to do it? You're going to sell it. And then that leads to number 6, which is business planning. So instead of just going niche in the investment world, I tell people, you're actually paying me for 6 different things. So I could write on 6 different topics. And inside those 6 topics are a million different subcategories, right? Perfect. So you could have the exact same thing with an electrician who's commercial, right? And I think you gave this example one time that was the, fire hazards for owning a commercial building. Wasn't that one that you gave as an example in one of our other podcasts?
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of examples. Yeah. I've watched, because a lot of my feed, which you probably don't see because LinkedIn is just that way. I mean, I see because so many of my connections are contractors, electrical contractors. Man, I see accidents. They post accident videos all the time. And I'm like,
there's content right there.
I'm like, yeah, there's content. This is why you don't want your employees doing this. This is why this is why you need a licensed contractor with insurance and proper safety equipment. And I mean, you could go on and on and on. But if you just sent me, like you were just talking about earlier, if I'm a customer or a prospect of yours and say, hey, I want to show you a video this is an employee at let's say at a manufacturing company, and he's a do-it-yourself maintenance person, and I want to show you what happens. And it's this guy on a ladder, and he gets zapped. And while he's getting zapped, the other guy pulls the ladder out to save him. And I think the fall probably did worse for the guy that was zapping.
Right.
The point is, boy, there's a whole content video right there. And that would, if I had a big manufacturing company, I would be like, yeah, you're probably right. I probably shouldn't have my maintenance guy out there doing the work. And that's
all right. He's the supervisor. We're going to contract it out to a professional.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the point that's the content. Create content based in problems or how you make your customer's life better. If you focus on those 2 things, the easiest way to create content today is likely just pulling out your smartphone and talking to it. And then I like a program called Rev. So if you want to talk about my tip of the day, rev.com does excellent transcription at about $1 a minute. It is $1 a minute. And they come back pretty quick. So you can send them about a 30-minute video and have it transcribed. It's back to you in 3-4 hours. So that's pretty solid without having to do a lot of proofreading. It's pretty good. A lot of the ums and ahs they take out, they actually have somebody sitting there typing. It's not automated software. So that would be a tip of the day if you ever want to create content without writing it, but you want to get it into print. Take your phone, talk to your phone, send it off to Rev. I don't get paid by Rev, but maybe we should get a link.
I love Rev. I think it's awesome. That's what I don't like to write either. I like to talk. So that's a service I use as well.
Yeah. So.
Got to get an affiliate link. We got to get an affiliate market.
I think we should.
All right, man. So let's summarize here. We talked about a lot of our guys are really good at delivering their product, doing their job really, really well. What they really need is a good way to generate leads and convert leads. And what they really need is really good follow-up. We got into building authority as a good way to attract people. And we talked about building authority, explaining about problems, giving examples. You said you could talk it. You could use rev.com to record it. You could use videos. I talked about being a curator of other people's information, interesting articles, interesting checklists that you can use, again, because a lot of times you get credit just for being the moderator. All right, so where are we going to find you this week?
Well, Matt, easiest place to find me is at davidmulvaney.com. I post 4 to 6 times a week. And I also do typically a Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I do a webinar, and you can find out information just by going to davidmulvaney.com. If you read anything on the blog, you'll see a link there that you can sign up for any of the webinars that I do as well.
Perfect. All right. And I'm at 10xprofitblueprint.com. And then, of course, you can find me, Matt Hudgins, at LinkedIn as well. All right, man. I've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it, Matt. We'll talk soon.